Welcome to another episode of Gari-On Talks. I'm your host, Dorette. Um, we're here with our guest. He goes by Hector Vera. What I know so far, and the show is about, a conversation with him, his life, and the Garifuna language. So I know he is often at Linden Field playing music, Garifuna music. Um, he also told me he used to, I don't know if he still does, promote Garifuna Artists. So Hector, Mabuga, thank you for being here. Bunda tinalaw, biya no malo, waya no hamusero. Luago Bebagari, Luma Lero Garifuna. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Serame, Dorette.
Of
And
course.
it's been a
And so, for those who are seeing the show for the first time, the show is about um, talking to people of Garifuna heritage, about their lives and how the Garifuna language fits into their lives. So that's what the show is about. So Hector, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your journey to where you are today?
sure thing. So I was born in La Ceiba, Honduras. It's a city in Honduras, and I lived there for my first 5 years. And my father migrated to the U.S. in '69, so I must have been three at the time. And then my mother followed suit in '71, leaving us with, how the migration story is with Garifuna people. The kids are left behind with their grandmother, and as the parents, come up north and try to make a life, try to prepare something for them to bring the kids, which is what happened with me and my five siblings at the time. They had my youngest sister here. So when my mother came here in '71, we moved to a Garifuna village called Santa Rosa de Aguan in Honduras. And so I guess those were my formative years from 5 to 9. Um, I lived with my grandmother, went to school from, I guess, first grade to fourth. And I remember on that by that fourth year, all I spoke really was Garifuna. My siblings and I, we all spoke Garifuna, and uh, somewhat still spoke Spanish. Unlike people from Belize or Nicaragua, we don't know any English. So coming to the States at the age of 9 was a complete culture shock for us because both the environment and the language. So we had to kind of start like from scratch. And fast forward to now, this upcoming December 19th, will make my siblings and I will make 50 years of arriving to the U.S. So we pretty much made our lives here. Although out of the six siblings, 6 kids that my mother and father had, I'm pretty much the only one that has a true connection with Garifuna and the country. So much so that I've even traveled to Belize a number of times to meet up with family there. So um, I can probably say, unfortunately, I can probably say a few words in Garifuna, but if you speak to me in Garifuna, I will understand you 100%, and I will answer you in either Spanish or English, depending on your background. So yeah, and then I'll probably throw in a couple of phrases there, here and there, a couple of words, but that's my story.
Mhm. Okay, great, great. And so in terms of growing up Garifuna, what was that like for you?
It was a really, really good experience. I mean, I remember I was telling somebody the other day that I lived it. I didn't just, I can't just say that, oh, I'm Garifuna. I actually lived it. I mean, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning at times with my grandmother, and we went to Arabu to, to plant crops and to I guess take out the crops from the ground, and I remember it being a caravan of people going towards the Landini, um, to get on the canoes and to go to the Arabu, um, and at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you see that caravan of canoes coming back at noon to park the canoes in specified locations, in our Garifuna town. So that was our life. I mean, one place that reminds me of Awan in Belize would be Hopkins, because it's like all sand. So ours is like all sand. So when I went to Hopkins for the first time, I was like, wow, this reminds me of Awan. And then Dangriga reminds me of La Ceiba, because it's a little more modernized, a little, paved streets and what have you. Where in Iwan and some parts of Hopkins, that not so. So I kind of like that, and I about Hopkins, and it reminded me of back home. But yeah, so those formative years in living the Garifuna life was definitely formative. Was definitely, I remember it well, to the point where I remember how the community would come together. I was there when Hurricane Fifi hit back in 1974, and um, although it didn't cause as much damage in our town as Hurricane Mitch did, years later. But I remember some roofs, because back then, houses were made of the straw, uh,
Touch.
right. So a lot of
Mhm.
houses were made like that, and very little houses had not the adobe, but like the sin, the tin,
Improve, yeah.
roof,
Have
yeah,
a nice roof. Mhm.
right. So not too many houses had those. So I remember the wind had causing havoc to a lot of those roofs, and toppling over. Because I remember the houses used to stand right, and then they used to have uh, two or two or four pieces of wood, that would anchor and hold, kind of like hold the house together from the beginning of the roof on each end, so it would help keep the houses erect. However, Mitch did away. I mean, not Fifi did away with that. So I remember you know the community coming together and fixing each house. So the men would go from house to house to fix, and then the women and the kids would, the kids would, help with the materials, and the women would cook while the men were working. So it was like a community atmosphere where you don't find. I don't know about Belize, but you don't find it in Honduras anymore. At least in my community, maybe another Garifuna community, but I don't see that the community feel the community. So everyone's like out for themselves almost. So that's changed. So it's heartbreaking, because I used to love how my community was back then.
Mhm. Mhm. So you said, I know you said you understand Garifuna, and you basically spoke it up to what? Up to age 3 or so before you left the
Age, age,
US?
age 9 when I
Age
came.
9,
Yeah,
yes.
age 9. So I would say from age 5 to age 9, I
Mhm.
started speaking Garifuna at age 5, and then I migrated here at age 9. So figure, it would take a good 5 to 10 years for me to be more acclimated to English than because you gotta I mean you gotta remember too. I'm trying to make this a point to some people that I arrived here in December of 1975. August of 1985, I was in college.
5 years later,
Yeah, so 10 years later,
10 years later, sorry.
10 years later, I was in college, and mind you, I came here without a word, knowing a word of English, and 10 years later, I was at a university. Was I prepared back then? Probably not, but after 4 years, I did graduate with my bachelor's, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I consider it an accomplishment for sure. Uh,
Mhm.
so
Yes, it was. I mean, that's very hard, Like you said, it was a culture shock moving from strictly a Garifuna environment, having to speak and understand Garifuna to coming here and, it's like totally not that way
yeah,
and having to get used to how things work here, including learning the language that most people speak here. So,
yeah, and I'd like to add one more thing too, and that's of um, like economic, I guess, stability or what have you. So when you speak English, when you know how to speak English, coming here to the U.S., I noticed that you can get, you can get the jobs faster, at least at that time, and
mm,
you can get better jobs as opposed to someone that didn't know the language. So let's say someone that came from Belize or even Roatan, the island of Roatan in Honduras, where they speak English. If somebody wanted to work on a ship, the men that normally would go and work on the ship, they would get the better positions on those ships because they spoke English. Whereby someone that didn't would probably work in the kitchen or maybe I don't know what the jobs are in the ship, but I know for a fact that there are, like I go to Roatan now, and the guys that work in the ship, they're like captains, because of the English
mhm.
language. And I don't hear or too many captains of any for that matter coming out of Santa Rosa de Aguan, my Garifuna town, because again, uh, we didn't know any English back then. Same thing with Belizeans. I think that Belizeans were able to capitalize on the English speaking when they migrated here, and were able to get probably better jobs than, let's say, a Honduran Garifuna
Mm.
would. So and then that manifests itself too, as life goes on. The household income may be a little lower for a Garifuna from Honduras than Garifuna from Belize, if they apply themselves.
It's a lot of factors determine how how well you're able to make it
Yep.
coming, migrating from, either countries because of the language you speak, that factoring in. Interesting. And in terms of the language, do you think it's important to learn Garifuna, to speak Garifuna?
Absolutely. I think it's our lifeline, and we have to preserve it and maintain it. And I mean, I have I don't like to jump off tangents, right? But I think I have to make this point that there's this thing going around with, especially with Garifunas from Honduras, talking about or calling themselves Afro Latinos. I hate that term, first of all, because there's nothing Latinos about us, right? To the point where I lived with my grandmother and my great grandmother. And I remember my grandmother, because of the kids that were coming from the city, had to learn a little bit of Spanish, but she didn't know any Spanish.
Mhm.
My great grandmother didn't know nothing, not a lick of Spanish. And
Mm.
if she said like a word or two, that's because she heard it from us. But so fast forward to a couple of generations later, and here we are. Some of these people calling themselves Afro Latinos. Like, where does that come from? There's nothing Latino about us because our forefathers and foremothers did not speak any Spanish. So there's not. We speak Spanish because we ended up in a Spanish-speaking country. It's there's nothing. Our being is not. There's nothing Spanish about us. So I get really, really frustrated when I hear that term. And uh, I'm Garifuna first, and everything else after.
Okay, so in terms of people around you or young people around you, um, do you try to pass on what you know in terms of the language or what you know in terms of the culture? Do you try to pass on what you know?
I do, and unfortunately, I hadn't. I have three daughters, and I can't say that I did a good job with passing on the language. However, the culture part, I make sure that they know about Fedu, and they know about you guys call it Hudut, we call it Hudutu. So and I make sure that they travel back home with me so they know where I live, where I come from, and so they're aware of their Garifuna being. Um, I tell you, migration really did a number on us, I believe, and still has, and to the point where even nowadays, I mean, I have three daughters, and two of them are married. One is married to a Garifuna, and the other one isn't. You know, um, if you were to go back 50 years ago, everybody, all Garifunas would be marrying Garifunas, and but migration really did a number on us to the point where, we some of us try to assimilate to other cultures and instead of our own. Like I'll see, even the parties. Like I get frustrated when I go to a Garifuna party and you hear I'm there like for a good half hour until maybe one Garifuna song is played. Everything else is reggae. I mean, nothing against reggae. I like reggae too, but um, if you go to a reggae party, a Jamaican party, I doubt they'll be playing, Garifuna music, all night.
That is
So
very true. Mhm.
so I don't understand why we, do the opposite. And the same thing with other type of music, bachata and salsa and what have you. That's all fine, that's music. I love music, and I think I'm well rounded when it comes to the music. But I just don't like to see um, or hear when I go to a party and I hear less of our music and more of everybody else's. So going back to your original question, I haven't done a good job with passing it on to my kids. However, I know that I've exposed them to our culture.
Mhm. And, in terms of bridging the gap of having more people want to learn the language and making the effort to learn the language, what do you think needs to be done?
I think we have to start from young. Those who can, if you can travel back home, and I think that at one point, again, it goes back to economics, right? Or finances. That if you're doing well, then you'll tend to take trips back home more often than not. I know people that have been here since they got here and never went back home, because of that reason. So I think that the if you have the ways and means of getting back home, that's one way of bridging the gap. And also, man, it's like one time we had a meeting with Bloomberg. It was like a joint meeting. There's a whole bunch of Garifuna at this place. Um, and one of my questions to Bloomberg, and he kind of like didn't answer the question, was that can we have like a few blocks in New York City where we can have like a little Garifuna town, just like they have Chinatown, just like they have Little Italy, just like they have uh, in Lower Manhattan they have little Ukraine. I mean, everybody has a little something except for us, So if we had like in the Bronx where there's a majority of us living there, like somewhere like near Third Avenue and 149th Street, like couple of blocks, like 3 blocks, is just Garifuna stores and apartments where people live, or maybe houses around the way, um, where we can actually call our own and kind of like gravitate to, when you need to go, oh, you know what, it's Sunday afternoon. I want to eat hudud. Then you go to, 149th Street and Third Avenue because that's where the Garifuna restaurant is, or restaurants are, and that's where you're gonna, you can eat your hudud on a Sunday afternoon. So we don't have that, and um, again, I have to say that um, we still Hondurans anyway. We still operate like we operate back home. We don't file anything. We don't open legitimate businesses. We do it everything on a fly, and if it works, it works. If not, then so very little businesses are open in our community. And again, maybe it's because of the language barrier or what have you, but um, the Chinese people do it. The Dominicans certainly have done it. Puerto Ricans, everybody else but us, and I think that that's one way of bridging the gap, is having like a little Garifuna town. But if not that, then at least let's have some schools going. If we don't have any schools going, then at least I can on certain days of the week, or maybe even on a Saturday, and make it like more consistent too. Like, okay, every first Saturday of the month, there's going to be a Garifuna class, with cooking and what have you, on a certain at a certain school, and then spread it around the city. But there's got to be a plan, and I don't think we have a plan.
I like those ideas. Very fun at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you think? Well, you ever heard something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I like how you explain it, and I think they should be. I like the idea of the Garifuna town, and I was thinking just the other day, in each Garifuna community. I mean, a lot of us are here in New York. We have Belize Day, where a lot of Garifuna show up. We have 19th of November, where we show up to the mass and the parties and stuff. So just like how we organize ourselves to have these events, we can organize ourselves to, like you say, create these more of a community to basically make it Garifuna oriented,
Mhm.
from the businesses that you had said
Mhm.
to the schools, to, I guess, community events, and the more you do the Garifuna duo, I would call it, elements, the more people learn, especially younger people, of
Mhm.
what the culture is, what are the elements of our culture, the language, the food, the music, the dances. And the more we do that, like what you said, if we have schools with regular classes, let's say on a weekly basis, like how other cultures have it, they have their their schools, some going all week, some going, you know, I guess some probably only on the weekends. We can do the same. And that's how we can integrate and teach our young people, especially who probably have no idea of speaking the language, or their parents can't speak the language, so they can't teach them the language. So if they have schools, they'll be able to be integrated and learn the importance of why it's necessary to speak the language and learn about the culture. So I think
So going
it,
back,
it
yeah, going back to the idea of like little Garifuna town, in some respects, and I really don't know what's going on over there, but I think uh, our people from Belize, our Belizeans, they might have missed the boat, especially now with gentrification, um, with that street, Linden Street, over there by in Bushwick, between Broadway and Bushwick. I remember back in the '90s. I mean, if you wanted to find Belizeans, you go to Linden Street, and I don't know how many Garifunas actually own homes on Linden Street, and by now, 20, 30 years later, if all Belizeans would have bought like a house when they were going on sale back then, we would have had a little town right there. That would have been a star right there. And then maybe from there another block. But we probably missed the boat on that because you're not getting any property on that side for anything less
things
than
like sky high right now.
very high.
A
So
lot of things are not affordable at the moment. So yeah, but I think, everything starts with an idea, a conversation, discussion, and of course, making a plan and executing that plan for those who have the ability and the resources to do it. And hopefully, this will spark ideas and action and to hopefully improve, make efforts to make these changes so that more kids, especially younger people, are able to learn the elements of the culture and learn the language and the importance of all that. So yeah, so that is the goal. I hope these conversation inspire, you know, ideas and action, of course, to make some necessary changes in our communities, you know,
right, right,
even if it's just one person at a time, because it only starts with one person. If one person is inspired and they find resources to do, something, that's one that's a difference. So yeah. Uh, all right. So let's switch gears a little bit. We'll play a game called Garifuna Say,
hmm
where I will show you some images and you will tell me the name of those images in Garifuna and we'll discuss them as we go along. Okay?
okay.
All right, so now I will share my screen.
Uh-huh.
Just let me know if you can see it.
hmm
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Uh,
The white screen. Do you press it? Okay, I just did. All right. Garao,
so this is the first image
garao.
of the Garifuna drum,
hmm
and you just told
And
me
I
the
mean,
name in Garifuna.
and that would be the primera. I think. Yeah, it looks like the middle one. So we call it the primera, which is the first.
The
What we
smaller one, right? Mhm.
Mhm.
And what does the Garifuna drum mean to you?
um it's was the base of our music. Um, the different dances that we have from Fedu to Punta to Bunjay to all the traditional. Um, and I remember too that us younger kids back then, we couldn't go to the Beluria. Um, uh, at a certain time, we had to go back home. We had to go home because it was time for the older people to, I guess, do their thing when it comes to Beluria, um, a mass. When somebody dies, I don't know what they call it in Le Messi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so I remember those traditions that I think we're losing right now. But the drum was a staple. And when when there was a death, and then also like big, big, big staple in around Christmas time, between Christmas and New Year's. Uh, I remember the drumming would start at on the 23rd, in the evening, and it wouldn't stop until like later on in the day on the 24th. So um, good memories that I had of my of the drums and in my community.
So this other image is meant to represent the word song.
Hmm.
Um, what's the Garifuna word for song?
Eremo.
And in this example, it's the lyrics to the song by Aurelio Martinez called Landini. And you mentioned that word earlier when you were talking about, your upbringing
Hmm.
and the elders going to Arabu, you know,
Right.
they probably tend the farm or reap crops
Hmm.
or plant crops.
Hmm.
Um, so, uh, so what I'll do,
No,
and are you familiar?
before you continue, I have a
Mhm,
really, I have, after Aurelio's passing, I have a
mhm.
really hard time listening to this song,
Mm,
and even when I'm out there playing, I have a hard time playing the song because it really spurs a lot of emotions. Because he had texted me, let me see, he passed in, forget what month it was, March, May, April, something like that. No, April. And he had texted me in January that he wanted me to help promote. Um, I believe it was this song, and I wrote him back saying, okay, let's talk, let's get together, and we never got together. And but then like when you hear the song and you hear the oh.
that's my favorite part.
It just sparks so much emotions in me, and I just can't listen to it, and I can't play it. I just can't. I'll play another jovial song by him, but I can't play this one. It'll take me a while for me to play it because
Okay.
it's just sad.
Mhm. And so in that regard, I usually play a snippet of the song, but based on what you just said, I will pass on that.
Yeah, but maybe the other song that he has that kind of has like almost like the same kind of meaning is the one that says Nilo Higabu. I don't know if you know that
Oh,
song. So
yeah.
that song to me, like I've been listening to that song since like 1997 when we encountered the album that he recorded with the Japanese people. And so that song to me, it speaks about um, um, the goings on in our community, right? It doesn't really paint a nice picture of the men because the song is pretty much saying, "Hey, little girl, where's your father? Anye Atagua," and that's a big problem in our community. But then I also remembered, in that caravan, going to the Arabu at 3 o'clock in the morning, that a lot of men were carrying their canalete, I forget what it's called in Garifuna. Um, what the ore that will carry,
Paddle,
right?
the paddle to
Yeah,
paddle
uh-huh,
the dory, the boat.
right. So I
Mhm.
remember there's a lot of men doing that, and they were tending their farm and their arabu, and then at 12 o'clock they were coming back home. So or fishermen, like they would go out fishing, and I remember going, seeing like the boats all the way out in the horizon, and men fishing and then coming back, with fish. So, but then you have that other element, and that song, Niro Higabu, kind of speaks to that. The mother is out there working, and the father is, Latagua, Latagua, and you know, it's so to me, it's kind of like it's it kind of puts in perspective, like life in a Garifuna town, pretty much. So I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
Among other songs of his that I like, but that's one
Hmm.
of the ones.
Hmm. My favorite of recent was and I can't believe I didn't hear it from before.
Ya te amo, ya te amo.
It's called what's that?
No, I'm so I just got a call, so I'm just letting them know I'll phone back.
Oh, okay. So yeah, of recent is it's called Urame.
Hmm.
I like that one. I really
Yeah,
like that one
yes,
because he
that's
he
played. That's played
tries
a
to
lot.
like paint an image of what we went through in Urame,
Hmm.
to survive,
Hmm.
and we made it. So I like, and then you hear the sound of the ocean or sea in the background at the beginning. Well done. I love that song.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites as well, and it's played in a lot of like a lot of Fed dudes. You know, a lot of artists have performed that song. So what else you got for me? Any more? Any other
All right, so that song. Uh,
uh,
Next one is family.
uh-huh.
How would we say family in Garifuna?
I would say family girl from Wanigu. um, what is the word for family?
Kids, familia,
Uh-huh.
literally,
Yeah, no, but
familia. Same as
yeah,
in Spanish.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what is it in Garifuna?
It's familia, believe it or
In
not.
Garifuna, really?
Yes, yes,
No.
exactly like it is in Spanish.
Oh, but it was something else.
Mm-hmm. Um, so what does family mean to you?
Um, so I have my three daughters, and my daughters are now having kids. So I have a couple of grandkids, and of course I have my siblings, and then my mom and my dad, and remember my grandmother and my great grandmother. I mean, man, it's like uh, the nucleus of you know of what a Garifuna person is and becomes. And I know without my family, without my brothers, my sisters, I remember the games that we used to play when we were little. Especially in the Garifuna times where there was no iPhones or iPads or what have you. So we had seasons back then. We had seasons for tops. We had season for kites. We had season for marbles. We had
Mm.
season for um, that game that they you draw like boxes in the on the ground, and then you hop, you throw like a coin or something, and then you hop. So
Oh, hopscotch. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yes.
and then the girls with the double dutch, and then
Hmm.
we also had like uh, almost like a similar game of like baseball, but we used to bat like that, overhead like that. So and made the balls would be made of socks, you know.
We were very creative and innovative.
Yeah,
And we made it
yeah.
work with what we have
Yeah, we had,
at the
I
time.
mean, the friends that we made back then, they're lifelong long friends, and we still have those stories, that I don't think that these kids would have those kind of stories nowadays. So going back to family, I mean, I'm glad I grew up in those days that I grew up in.
This photo is of the beach. So the word is
Bella
beach.
Booth, Laru Bella.
Marbella.
That's another good song. Let me see who. Trying to think who recorded it, like way back when. I know Estrella Subo recorded, but Mojabo Flores has a song, La Rubia. He talks about La Rubia in his song. Forget which song that is. Maybe it is called La Rubia.
And then there's Lloyd too. I can hear the song in my head. Bebegala Rebea. Bebegala Rebea Bea.
Yep, yep, yep,
There's that one
yep,
that I could remember.
yeah.
So what does this image reminds you of?
I remember.
And this is Hopkins, by the way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So this reminds me of what I want, right? With the palm trees and the canoes, the boats, and of course the sand and beach. I remember just going out there, and it's like a big expansive beach, and hardly anybody was there. So I would go there and just look, at, beyond, like, to the horizon, and it was so it was tranquility. It was like, just looking and seeing in the morning, the 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 ocean being real serene and calm, and then in the afternoon with the winds, more choppy and stuff. So, and then I'm looking at the clouds and the color of the sky. There's nothing like it. There,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
don't,
That's what I miss about Belize. It's like
yeah,
you're close to the sky when you're over there.
right, and
Everything is so nice and clear and beautiful.
you don't see that color blue here, and you don't see white clouds like you do back home. So I miss that, and some hopefully.
I do too. When I go home, I like revel in it. I was like, oh, I miss this.
Yeah,
So miss this.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. And this images of
Good
fish.
though.
Literal.
Good though. So I don't know the type of fish, right? But I guess this is like snapper.
I don't really know fishes.
Yeah,
You made me.
yeah, yeah. I think this like red snapper, but I remember,
Mhm.
men going out fishing and you know, you know, pulling the canoe in, and there was still, some water inside the canoe, and some fish were still like flapping, and
I used to wonder why they keep like some water in the boat. I used to notice that.
yeah,
And they would keep, you
yeah,
know,
and I don't know I don't know if it was
bailing it out with a container.
yeah,
There-
right. I don't know if they meant to put water in there. Maybe just water got in because the canoes were like, when especially in the ocean, if there was little bit of waves, some some water was going to get in, and then if you're you know heading home, like, you don't really have the time to take the water out. So they pretty much stayed in there until you got to the shore. But man, memories, I tell you. Barudu.
And this one is a plantain.
Hmm. Yeah, so we used to plant barudu back home. You know, um, this is the staple of our hudoots. And then right next to it, apart, so you have the yellow plantains on the on the right, and then the cassava, looks like cassava on the left. Yuca.
Okay. When it's made into that to bake it, it becomes herb.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember
It's
those days
all
too.
bread. Mm.
Yeah. And the day to make a reba was on a Friday, because
Oh,
yeah, it would be on a Friday, and then on Saturday, like, the women used to wrap themselves because they were in front of the heat, like, all day on Friday. So then
mm.
Saturday can really be exposed to like any cool air or what have you. So I remember those days. Uh,
This one is calabash.
right. So is this what do we call it? Because I know that they would, the fruit, it would be green, and then they would take everything out, cut it in half, take everything out, and then dry it, right? And then we will use this for to drink water with, or to spray water in the garden. You know, or if we had like a mud floor, mostly in the kitchens, you spray that to keep the use this to spread the water to keep the dust down.
Yeah, almost like a dipper.
Yeah.
Hmm. And do you remember the Garifuna word for calabash?
I don't remember. I know I it's not CBCB. Um, something to that, something like that. But what do you remember it being?
So the word for calabash is rida.
That's right. That's right.
So
Yep.
I've seen people drink water in this. I've seen
Yep.
them eating, like using it as a plate, you
Yep.
know,
Yep. I remember.
drinking
Yep.
um porridge, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like pop music or guento or leto or you know.
Yeah, I remember. We used to have, some of those. Don't see those anymore, really. But everybody's big, they have their glass cups now. So
Ah.
yeah,
Yeah, times has changed, time has changed, but those who are holding on to tradition and Garifuna dual, they
yeah,
tend to try to maintain it and still use these tools because, they're very effective,
mm,
very effective.
yeah.
And we just spoke about this cassava bread.
Hey, Reba,
Ereba cassava.
that's right. Mhm. That's
Mm,
a song that NDP made famous.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So even if you don't know Garifuna, you know the word
yep,
for this because it's in that song.
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
And
that's how.
when you see cassava, what what do you think about?
So I remember eating it, with with fish a lot, and it was a staple too. Like if there was nothing else, for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you had ereba, that's what you were eating with whatever, So
That's it.
you could eat ereba with refried beans, with you could eat ereba with fumasu, you could eat ereba with uduro,
Cheese,
you
yeah, with
know,
fish. Hmm.
with um, avocado if there was any avocado. So
Hmm.
yeah, that was a staple.
Yeah.
I grew up on it.
And I'm always amazed, like I've told other people, how long it lasts,
Yes.
without spoiling. Like it
Yep.
lasts.
Yep. Yep.
It lasts a long, long time. This is amazing.
Yes.
So this is a photo of the Garifuna flag.
Hmm. What is the fendera?
Uh, what's that?
Is the word fendera for governor word
Yeah,
for flag?
Panidira.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know if there's another way of saying it, but that's the way that I know how to
Okay.
say it.
Hmm.
And when you see the Garifuna flag, what does it mean to you?
It's our culture, our identity. Um, it's sense, it brings out like a sense of pride, and then it kind of gives homage to our ancestors, the struggle, the fight. Uh, we're we I I almost want to say that people that personal people live in Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, kind of like in foreign land, that's it's not really ours,
Mm.
we were exiled from our land, from our home, and we from, and then we ended up in places where we had to like struggle there too, and the people that were there before, didn't want us there, and we had to like kind of like prove ourselves. And to this day, now they're trying to take away land from us. I remember, song by Mohamed Flores, about they're trying to take our land, and man, what was the name of that song? It's from the Marcos Artist album. Such a great song. So um, he talks about don't give up the land.
Mm-hmm. I remember that song. But the name of the song, but
Yeah, I mean, I could probably look it up and find it, but see, let me see if I can. I'm not opening it here.
it's
No.
amazing how, these artists advocate through their music, and sometimes you hear it, you're singing to it, but you don't understand the gravity of the message
Mhm.
until probably years later when you
Right.
see what has happened or what's been happening in terms of people, not just land being taken from them, but them willingly selling their land to others,
Yep.
and that has happened a lot in Belize too, especially in the southern coastal areas, like Hopkins and St. Bite and those places, so which has been replaced by these luxurious hotels
Hmm.
owned by foreigners, and you know, so it's only now that, in terms of that message, you know,
It
hitting a lot
resonates.
of people with more meaning now because of what
Yeah.
has happened or
I
what
mean, that that
continues to happen.
yeah, that album came out like have to be like between 95 and 97.
Mm,
And he's talking about that, um, about, don't sell your land, keep your land, you know, um, um, and then also like way before then, he had the song I Can Food, you know,
mm,
uh, talking about, our food and, you know,
mhm,
and everybody and, the Dutu and, fish and,
mm, mhm,
that being like, homegrown food, like I Can Food,
mhm,
so
mm,
yeah. So I tell you, Mahmoud, as it's a genius.
mhm.
I don't know if he wrote the songs or those are just traditional songs, but I tell you, I still remember. I still listen to those songs still today.
Mhm. Yeah, that's why they're classics.
Yep.
They're timeless. So this image is of Garifuna Dictionary, both the one by the collaboration edited by Leroy Cayetano, and then the one on the right by Ruben Reyes. So all that to say, I simply put the word book. So what would be the word for book in Garifuna?
Mm. Um, it's probably like on the tip of my tongue, but I can't come up with it. You know, go figure. But I do know both authors. Um, man. Okay, give me the name.
So simply put, you can just say Garda.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah. So
Garda.
that would be tell the paper
Mhm.
book.
Yeah,
So you could just simply say Garda.
right. Or for us, for me anyway, Garda would be
Mm,
like a letter.
I see.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And I see on Ruben Reyes' book, he also calls it Garudia.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, good
people
name.
would say Garudia, some people would say Garda.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Uh,
So when you see the Garifuna dictionary, what does it mean to you?
Education, I think you and I really high on education, and also passing on the written um, aspect of our culture, which is very important. And I'm not enough of the whatever part that we can pass on, the better.
I agree. So other than what we've spoken about, do you have any talents or hobbies that you engage in other than what we've spoken about?
Um, so you know, I don't consider myself in like like a DJ, but when I do play music out in the park and all, I have this sense of wanting people to remember the past and really playing the classics most of the time. I mean, I really don't have a grasp of, let's say, the new Garifuna artists, but I do have a grasp of you know of the Aurelio, the Asiatics, the Mohabobs, um, you know, Titi Man, Andy, uh, that genre, you know. And I do like the new guys, I do like, Super G, or Punta Rebels, from back then also. I do like Super G. I do like, um, Lloyd's music, you know. So I also like, you know, uh, Reckless, and it's coincidental or non-coincidental that they all came from, Punta Rebels, So yeah, I really like uh, you know, the music, other talents that I may have. Um, hmm, well, I don't think it's a talent. It's something that I learned over time. I think that I can oversee the building of a house, um, because of the work that I do here and also my education. Um, uh, One thing that I think I can help the community with is having some kind of um, information to them or for them regarding like solar panels. I did my piece on renewable energy and climate change, so I had to study that and research that a great deal. So if I have another talent, it would be that. And then if you come to Linden, excuse my shameless plug. But if you ever come to Linden, try a little bit of my rum punch. It's a crowd favorite.
Oh, cool. Cool. All right, great, great. I have to come to Linden sometime when you're there so I can hear
I'm
the
very receptive.
music,
I'm very receptive.
hear you spinning the music, those classics.
Yep. Yep.
Um, we learned a little bit about what you do. So I know you told me that you promote artists or used to promote, Garifuna artists, such as this guy here, Marble Flores. So what made you start doing that? And of course, how did you go about doing it? And what did you learn from that experience?
So I started doing it because I first started doing a lot of promoting events like in high school, junior high school actually,
Mhm.
junior high
Mhm.
school, and then I went on to high school and I promoted events then. But back then it was more like I promoted like rock groups, and because I went to predominantly white schools. So when I went to college, I continued the promotions then, um, but and then more parties than it was artists promoting. So once I graduated, and around that time is when Punta started really taking um, like a hold, they becoming more popular. So this is like early '90s, and that's when like Marconi was out there performing. Um, you had you had um, you know well back then also I wasn't really in touch with um, uh, a lot of the Garifuna artists from Belize, so it wasn't until later that we actually started getting Garifuna people from Belize and Honduras started um, coming closer because of the music, and
Mm.
it was around that time. Uh, so anyway, so I when I came to New York from school, I had this mentality that I wanted to um, do things on a bigger scale and not just keep it inside the community, but kind of bring the music out there. So I remember one of the bigger events I did, and this is back like in 1992, November of '92. I had a event with a Belizean artist, Mighty K, may he rest in peace. Then it was Estrella Subo, Larumi Hati, and an artist from Guatemala, Cesar Rojas, and we had this event in Harambe. It was a African club in Manhattan, and that was unheard of because no one really went out of the no one really went out of the community. So I was able to do that, and when and prior to that, I remember Andy P telling me that he had performed in SOBs as early as 89, 90. So it wasn't like I was the first one that put anything out there. But I know Andy performed in SOBs like before that, but it wasn't a production that a very different person did like I did. Um, so I did. I don't know. I think I know more about promotions now that I don't do it than I did back then. And there was a lot of pitfalls then because you really need to have a lot of capital, in order for you to do some of these promotions. And one thing that the promoters today don't do that I would probably do is really try to get those sponsors. I think they do it easily, more easily in Belize, where they can get milk and beer to sponsor and Pepsi, what have you. But they don't approach those companies here, whereas I did. I approached those companies, and um, so that's something that I learned, then. And if I was to ever go back to promoting, which I don't see myself doing, but if I ever did, I would implement that aspect of it of having those companies that we we support um, for them to for them to support our events.
Terms of advice, besides the getting sponsors, um, if there is someone out there who are thinking of becoming a promoter, you know, what advice would you give that person?
Start small, do small events, and once you see you have a following, then increase it there, and also stay local. Don't try to um, take the show on the road just yet. Really, really try to hone your skill locally, and even to the point of in the beginning, utilize local artists as opposed to bringing you know artists on the outside. And then once you have a name, then you can sky's the limit. But start out small. Have a budget. Don't go over your budget.
Great. Thank you for that advice.
Just lost you.
At the Hometown Paranda Fest, what was that, 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was there. I remember taking a picture with him.
Yeah, I was there too.
Oh, okay. When he got off the
Mm.
stage, I took a picture with him.
Yeah. All right. So, in terms of the next three to 5 years, what's next for you?
Well, on a personal level, I plan to retire in 6 years. So in the next 3 years, continue doing what I do as far as like 3 to 5 years anyway. Continue doing what I do with what I do in Linden, and possibly expand that, and have like more of a online presence also, because you know like have a brand basically, and stick to it, and kind of expand a little bit on that. Um, and if all works out, with the online presence and what have you, probably take some, say take it on the road. You know, um, will that mean uh, promoting again? I don't know, but because it takes a lot, but I don't know. It's inside me. It's within me. So, but um, there's a lot to do, and also I need to have the energy to do. That's the other thing
That
too.
too. Yeah, that too. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take a lot of efforts, a lot of energy. And so speaking of creating a brand, or all that or the experience that you have so far, have you taken anyone under your wings in terms of tutoring or mentoring them, and teach them some of the skills that you know?
It's funny you said that, right? Because there's a couple of promoters right now who uh, this is a gentleman who I think promoted that event that we saw Mohaboven at, and uh, he's done some big events, and I think he did one this past year that didn't go as well. So I told him, let's get together, let's talk, so that we can discuss some of some of your plans on some of these events. Um, I spoke to him on Sunday actually, and he wasn't happy with the sound that was given to him for his event. And I also spoke a little bit about the venues, so that you don't want to continually have events and be on a losing side. You want it to be successful, and also successful for you too, because if you like that part of promotions, you also got to make money, you know,
Mhm.
and 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 so that you can have the next event. So um, I plan on talking to him about how to make it better, and anyone else that may have questions regarding promotions. I am here. I'm like a sponge. You know, I took in a lot of information. I'm willing to give it.
Great. That's great. Thanks for that. So in terms of people connecting with you, how can people connect with you? You know, if they want to know, like you just offered, you know, if they want to know more about, um, you know, tutor, mentor in terms of your experience as a promoter or learning, you know, what's happening with you in terms of, I guess, future ventures or endeavors, and you know, just connecting with you to find out what's next. You know,
Yeah, so
how
that
would
right,
people go about doing that?
yeah, so that right there is sparking like almost like a website conversation, right? That I should have a website and that I can, put in information and people can connect with me through there. So I don't have that right now. It's That's probably going to be in the works, but in the meantime, an email can start a conversation, and my email address is vrhctr@gmail.com. And we can start with that, and then we can have a phone conversation after that.
Sounds good. All right, so we've come to this part. You know, we're not here. We're here for a little while. Let me phrase it that way. So, when it's all said and done, you know, when people hear the name Hector Vera, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want them to think when they hear the name Hector Vera?
Um, I want them to take with them or to know that I was part of those pioneers that really try to push the culture in within our community and outside of the community.
Great. So Hector Vera, thank you for being willing. You know, thank you for sharing, for giving of yourself. Um, Serme, much appreciated. Thank
Ceremony to
you.
ceremony to
Of
you too.
course.
Is It was a pleasure having this conversation, and I think that there should be more forums like this. Maybe you can take this, do a little, you know, maybe get myself and some of these artists together so we can reminisce and talk about,
I agree.
you
I
know,
so agree with that. I
you know,
need your help with, you know, making that connection, but I'm willing, I'm open to, you know, hearing more about that and collaborating, you
yeah,
know, with you or with others of similar interests or, um, who are willing to advocate for our culture, our people, for the survival of our culture, our language, you know. So I'm open to that. And
awesome.
thanks for offering that.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So I will give you the last words. Any last word?
Um, as Garifuna people, we really should try to maintain and preserve our culture. It's all that we have. Um, if you can, if you're able to, try to go back home at least once a year and visit home and try to get a little taste of home today, because so that way we can maintain that that our culture within us, uh, and here in the United States, since we pretty much spend most of our lives here, let's try to make a difference in um, our Garifuna selves and our Garifuna people, by creating, positive vibe, positive events. And I have um, no complaints about my people, especially here in Brooklyn. We I think that we're really a community here, and I think Linden helps a lot with that. It's like we when you go to Linden, unlike other parks in around the city, mainly the Bronx, um, it's more of a community type of feel here in Brooklyn, and I like that. You know, um, a lot of people know each other, and if you don't know each other, you get to know each other, and we've been there for years, and the same people have been going to Linden for years, and the same, so that creates that family atmosphere. So um, for those people who don't haven't experienced Linden, come through on a Sunday afternoon, bring your chair, and enjoy yourself, and but just stay Garifuna.
Hey, Hector Vera, Serme.
Surrender, Doret.
Adios.
Ayo.